let me go ahead and introduce my co-facilitator and CUCSA chair-elect, Jen Bowser, to share more about CUCSA.
You, Karen, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today to learn about what being a CUCSA delegate is all about. I am Jen Bowser, and I am currently serving as the chair-elect of CUCSA. My full-time position is at UC Santa Barbara, where I am the Sustainable Procurement Program Manager and Supplier Diversity Officer. And I will be celebrating 10 years of service in October with the UC. Let's get started today with what the Council of UC Staff Assemblies is all about. Next slide, please. So here's an overview of where CUCSA fits within the UC system. CUCSA is located in this diagram in the middle, bottom of this chart in light purple. You can see our executive sponsor is System-Wide HR over on the left. And then we have on the right, very close partnerships with the local staff assemblies, human resources, and chancellors at each of the locations. Next slide. The delegation consists of 26 delegates, 2 delegates from each campus, Agriculture and Natural Resources, Berkeley Lab, and the Office of the President. The executive board is elected internally from among CUCSA alumni. This year's chair is John Bodenschatz from Irvine. Dennis MacGyver from OP is our immediate past chair. Jeremy Thacker from Irvine is serving a 2-year term as our operations officer. And Derek DeMarco from Santa Cruz is the first to pilot the external communications officer role. Next slide. The council is an assembly of volunteer staff that are dedicated to improving communications between UC administrators and the staff. The council's objective has been to provide service to the university by advising and providing a staff perspective to decision makers. Next slide. Over the past nearly 50 years, the council has advocated for a paid family leave plan, which became official policy for employees in 2021, continued salary increases for non-represented staff, and the creation of the staff advisor to the regent's position. Next slide. Each year, CUCSA leadership establishes work groups for the delegation to focus on specific topics that are based on research and recommendations. The first work group, the Policy Covered Staff Identities, is tasked with identifying and defining who policy covered staff are within the UC system. They aim to utilize data and staff narratives to provide a comprehensive understanding of policy covered staff, highlighting their impact and concerns across the different locations. The work group's objective is to facilitate better stakeholder understanding and advocacy for UC staff members through a detailed portrayal of staff experiences. The staff workforce work group is focused on evaluating staff ratios and the effects of vacancies on both employees and the organization. This group is also reassessing work methods to better cater to staff needs and preferences, aiming to enhance retention within the UC system. Additionally, the group seeks to address burnout effectively and to identify best practices for flexible work arrangements to improve staff well-being. The compensation work group is focused on various aspects of compensation and financial understanding for UC staff, including reviewing hiring salary postings, developing tools like personal budget calculators, and coordinating with campus leaders to gain insights to ensure comprehensive understanding and implementation of compensation-related policies. That's a mouthful. The well-being work group, oh, sorry, one more. Let's just, yep, thanks. The well-being work group is dedicated to defining and promoting overall employee wellness within the UC system. The group distinguishes between wellness and well-being, advocating for a holistic approach to employee health. The well-being work group focuses on initiatives such as advancing the Okanagan Charter, providing tools for supervisors to manage hybrid work environments effectively, and establishing best practices for mentorship and coaching programs. Additionally, the group aims to update sick leave policies to encompass both physical and mental health concerns, aligning with evolving standards in well-being management. Now the next slide. The delegation meets 4 times a year in person at a different UC location where we have the opportunity to be together and to also meet with local and system-wide leadership. Here is a list of where we have been this year and where we are headed. Most recently, we went to UC San Diego, and I can share a link in the chat to our note summary from that meeting. Next, we are headed to Berkeley Lab in June, and we look forward to that. So that is who CUCSA is, and I'm now going to pass it back over to Karen.
Thank you, Jen, for providing us with a background on CUCSA. So now let's learn more about the role of a CUCSA delegate. And I believe there is a slide, Dre, with everyone's name on it. So if we can just bring that up, that would be great. Thank you. So I'm going to now ask our panelists their first question. And that question is, could you please introduce yourself and provide a brief overview of your role within your UC Staff Assembly and as a CUCSA delegate? And how did you become involved with CUCSA and what motivated you to participate in this capacity? So I will kick it off with our first panelist, which is Kaylee from UCI.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Kaylee Hayakawa, and I use she and they pronouns. I am the Assistant Academic Counselor for Graduate Division at UC Irvine, and I have 4 years of service with UC. My role within UC Staff Assembly is to act as a liaison between UC Staff Assembly and CUCSA as one of 2 elected delegates. Myself and my co-delegate, who you'll hear from shortly, make sure that UCI's voice is represented in these system-wide spaces, and bring back missing practices and important information back to our location. I became involved with CUCSA after participating on staff assembly in a different capacity as a way to give back to a community who has given so much to me as both a student at UCI and now as a staff member. Staff deserve to be heard, and I'm very grateful that I've had this opportunity to elevate our voices in this way. And I will pass it to my co-delegate, Amy.
Thank you, Kaylee. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Amy Fujitani. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the department manager in the Film and Media Studies department, and I'm a first-year delegate. I have 20 years of service, and I'm a proud Cal alumna. I know, 20 plus. We won't talk about that. Since Kaylee did such an excellent job in explaining how UC Irvine delegate fits within our staff assembly organization, I'll just talk about myself and how I became involved. Early into my career, my mentors encouraged me to get involved with staff assembly and really invest back into the campus community. So I've done so through volunteer work as well as serving on staff assembly and other officer positions. And those experiences really shined a light in showing me the hows and whys behind how decisions are made, especially ones that impact our campus community. Therefore, becoming involved with CUCSA is just sort of amplifying and widening that lens for me to understand how our campus works within the greater UC ecosystem. One final item I do think is important to mention is that in terms of timing, I was really intentional with when I decided to join CUCSA because I knew it was a 2-year obligation. There was a lot of work beyond just going to those monthly meetings as part of staff assembly. And so I waited until such time as my personal and professional lives aligned to make it so that I had the space to really invest the time and energy into CUCSA. So with that, I will pass it on to my fellow delegate, Patrick.
Thank you, Amy. My name is Patrick Allen, and I'm actually at the Berkeley campus. I'm a first-year delegate. I actually work in the academic senate as a policy analyst, and I have 17 years of service, almost 18 years, going on 18 years. And for me, I think kind of like joining CUCSA, I think it's sort of beginning actually before just becoming a part of the Berkeley Staff Assembly, which I've been involved with in different capacities throughout many years at being at Berkeley. But when I actually ran for being a member of our governing council here at Berkeley and our Berkeley Staff Assembly, I had a vision that thought, okay, sort of looking at CUCSA, what is this about? What is this kind of like looking at it at that particular time? And I really appreciate what Amy had indicated. It's kind of like the time and the place in terms of like balancing our work professional and our personal professional lives as well. And so with that, I kind of joined the Berkeley Staff Assembly. My first year actually was the co-chair of our Excellence in Management program, which is a big program we have in recognizing our staff from staff staff on campus. And in my first year, also seeing the predecessor, so Jeremy Brooks, who's a previous delegate or current, my other colleague, actually delegate as well, Courtney Klein, they just kind of brought a lot of information back about what CUCSA does, how they engage, how they're engaging, taking the voices from our campuses and sharing it with different delegates from other campuses and locations. And that was really exciting to me. And actually, and then the final year, the final product, the final June meeting, there was a big presentation. I actually looked at that. It was very telltale to me. And I thought, I really definitely want to engage more with that. And so I think that's kind of like put myself forward to continue the opportunity to be a CUCSA delegate, representing not just the campus, but also system-wide in terms of staff voices that we're really trying to raise and lift, and the things that we're trying to do and maintain a good, positive environment for staff. And so that's kind of where I'm at and how I got to this particular opportunity. And so with that, I'll carry it to the next colleague, actually on our list here, Marcia Beam.
Thank you, Patrick. And thank you, UCSF Staff Assembly, for organizing this panel discussion. My name is Majibin Yusikul. I'm a senior software developer at California Digital Library, CUCSA Delegate from Office of the President. At my staff assembly, I am one of the steering committee members. I have had multiple roles, so secretary, then treasurer, co-chair of one of the subcommittee. And my journey to CUCSA began last year at UCSF. I attended CUCSA meeting as an alternate, and what I observed motivated me to apply to become a delegate. I saw the conversations at the highest level of the organizations with the leaders at the system-wide level, leaders at the location for the campus. And work groups were investigating topics of broad interest to staff, elevating staff voices. And it was a wonderful set of inspiring people, and I wanted to be part of that group and be able to contribute. In terms of process for our location, we have elections for steering committee. We have elections every year. The term is 2 years. And steering committee members select which role they would like to play, and the chair and vice chair approve. So I'm very grateful for their approval for being a CUCSA delegate, and I have completed 1 year. I'm so excited to be part of this group, and I'll hand it over to Dre.
Hi everyone, I'm Andrea, or Dre. I am a non-binary person with purple glasses and my hair pulled back, and my name is in the top left corner. I am from UCSF. I'm a second-year delegate, and my day job is working in clinical applications. And I've been a UC staff member for 14 years. I started my career at UC Davis, worked at UC Santa Cruz, and then am now in my current role at UCSF. What really drew me to be involved initially with staff assembly and later CUCSA was just the opportunity to advocate for my peers, especially around issues for work-life balance and wellness. And I started being involved as the communications person because the board at the time needed someone with website skills. And that was a really great way to get gently introduced to what CUCSA was about and the structure of local staff assemblies. And with that, I will pass it to my co-delegate, Karen Brent, for the next question.
You're muted, Karen. Okay. I'll take it. It's we're gonna. It's okay. It's okay. We are going to dive into the roles and responsibilities of delegates. So let's start with Amy. Can you describe your typical responsibilities and duties as a CUCSA delegate?
Yes. So as was indicated in the slides, all CUCSA delegates have 3 principal responsibilities. That's to serve on a work group, attend quarterly meetings, and be a conduit between CUCSA and your local staff assemblies. But what does that look like on the daily? It really does vary. I'm fortunate to serve on the compensation work group with my fabulous leader, Dre. And, you know, it's frankly a lot of meetings. We meet on every other week to set goals and tasks for one another, since we are responsible for preparing a report that we send to the regions in June. We are gathering data, we're crunching that data. We're meeting with university officials, both at UCOP and at some of our sister campuses. Aside from that, I also have the unique opportunity to serve as the system-wide, or the CUCSA representative for the system-wide HR benefits survey. So that's some additional meetings, but it's a really important opportunity to focus, as this benefits survey is focusing on understanding which UC benefits employees value most. So I'll be able to provide some critical feedback in that role. But yeah, that's essentially it in a nutshell.
It's a lot. Thank you, Amy. Dre, how do you represent the interests and concerns of your local staff assembly within the broader CUCSA framework?
Great question. Thanks, Jen. This is an ongoing assessment to really understand what issues can be addressed at a local level, and what issues are more of a system-wide. So being from UCSF, our location is unique in that we only have graduate student education, and we also have a medical center and several health centers. So there are some unique things that are more central to our location. But there's also shared things that we have with all UC staff that can be coping with the high cost of living in our area, having under-resourced and understaffed departments, or maybe some departments have more resources than others. So something that UCSF has done this year to better connect with the CUCSA framework is a listening tour, where we use our general meetings to focus on a topic that's being addressed actively in one of the CUCSA work groups. And this has been a great way to give feedback directly from staff that are at the local location, and feed that directly back to the CUCSA work groups, and help steer and make sure that information's not just flowing from me as a delegate or Karen as my co-delegate, but it's actually coming directly from all staff that are involved with the General Assembly. And that's been going really well. We're still learning how best to do that, but it's been a great way to make sure that everyone's voices are reflected in CUCSA.
A question for both of you. I think it's evident from all of us being here today how much we value the mission and vision of CUCSA and what it means to be part of this delegation. But let's be honest, there are some challenges. And so what do you feel are some of the key challenges you face in your role, and how do you overcome them?
Well, I'll go ahead and go first. Honestly, it's striking a balance between the job that pays you and the job that you volunteered for. You know, when I first had applied and expressed interest to my my supervisors about joining CUCSA, you know, the time commitment and everything, you know, I got a lot of, yes, of course, we understand, we completely support you. But then when it came down to, hey, I need to set aside this time because I have CUCSA responsibility, it was just like, wait. What did you say you were doing again? So I found that the way to kind of overcome that is to just have this constant communication and provide updates about what it is that I'm doing as part of CUCSA. I think it's an added challenge in that, you know, I work in an academic department, so I'm working with faculty who are even further removed in some ways from staff. And so it's provided me a great opportunity to kind of raise issues that staff are facing to faculty, because in the end, we're all, you know, employees of the university.
And Dre?
Yeah, similar to Amy, I've found that it's really effective to communicate back with the people that I work with about the issues that we're working on, because there's a lot of shared struggles and things that are important for all staff to know, as well as faculty. Another thing that's been a challenge is figuring out where at what level to address a specific issue. So for example, on the compensation work group, when we're talking about salary equity questions, that would be more of a policy or a perspective that we would talk to someone in our local leadership, whether that be the chancellor, our chief HR officer, or compensation team at our location. However, when we're talking about things like who sets salary scales and how are different locations categorized as rural or suburban or city markets, that would be a conversation that we'd be having with system-wide, and we'd be working through CUCSA to have those conversations. Similarly, when staff might approach us with a question of, well, who sets the across the board percentage increase? That's been a learning opportunity for us in CUCSA to really dive in and understand that folks put together a budget and then the regents ultimately approve it. And so knowing where to advocate has been a great thing to learn, both as just a staff member, but also as a body of staff members who are trying to advocate on staff issues, finding the right people to talk to and at what level they can actually enact change. And with that, I'm complete, and I will hand it back to our moderators.
Go ahead, Karen.
Great. So now I want to touch a bit on collaboration and networking. So my first question is for Patrick. Have you encountered any notable instances of knowledge sharing or best practice exchange among delegates?
Oh boy, where to begin? I think one of the things, and being new, being a first-year delegate at the first quarterly meeting that I had attended in Santa Barbara, there's an opportunity there we are introducing ourselves, obviously, and engaging and sharing information, but all the conversations and at all the meetings have been a lot of that. It has been a lot of information being shared, kind of like programs that other staff assemblies are doing or considering, how those are working for them. And also we have a great opportunity. There's a Slack channel as well that we exchange information through that, ideas, information sharing as well. Specifically, I know we had a situation, on our campus, we were looking at doing a food insecurities program, and we kind of like trying to figure out what that would look like on our particular campus. Really great opportunity. Actually, Courtney Klein, my co-delegate here at Berkeley, she was engaged with, or actually started a conversation with our UC Merced staff assembly, who actually have a kind of a staff emergency fund program going on in their campus. And so from there, we actually met with our staff assembly group at Merced. We had great conversations. They were very freeing of information, sharing information about how long it took them to get the program started. She even shared their accounting mechanisms with us. And so it kind of really gave us a lot of information to kind of look over and think about how we could then particularly implement that type of program in our campus, or something that looked similar that would meet our staff's needs on our campus. And it was just a really great conversation. I feel like that was an opportunity for us to get that information we needed, and also kind of start to build like what we need to do in terms of what we want to do, how we're going to go about it. So that was just a great opportunity to share best practice or share an opportunity that's working really well at another UC campus. And something that we kind of like still need to work through some things here, but definitely an opportunity to see how we might be able to put that on the ground here on our campus as well. So that's just that's one example of many I've seen working actually at all the different quarterly meetings and exchanges through Slack as well, how we kind of put forward for not just for our own locations, but also other locations that might be useful and benefit from these opportunities as well. So that's where I'll leave it.
Great. That's a great point. The sharing of regular updates from all of our campuses at the meetings has been very useful in terms of taking information back. I know at UCSF that's been very helpful for us. So Kaylee, I wanted to ask, in what ways has your involvement with CUCSA strengthened your professional network or expanded your perspectives?
Yeah, thank you. Being involved with CUCSA has done both of these things in a lot of different ways. I think the most obvious for me is just getting to know colleagues from across the UC system and their experience at their various locations. My perspective and experience as a staff member at UCI's campus working with graduate students is so different from that of a staff member at agriculture and natural resources who is routinely working with county employees at small locations like scattered throughout the state, right? And so even there, just my understanding of the wider staff experience is really expanded. And this system-wide perspective that we take in this work as part of CUCSA has also been a huge learning opportunity in better understanding the functioning and the impact of the UC system. And as Dre was saying, who is in charge of what and why certain things are done the way they are. And all of that information makes us more effective advocates both system-wide and locally. I would also say that there's a lot of opportunities to build relationships with folks in the CUCSA delegation and in the staff assemblies of the different locations when we're visiting. The people who are involved in this are the type of folks who, in my experience at least, you can just cold outreach with a question about CUCSA or their day job or their staff assembly, and they're always going to be more than happy to support you, to offer their guidance, their expertise, their experience. And so in many ways, the network that I've grown through staff assembly and through CUCSA has and is going to continue to serve me and enable me to serve my colleagues even once I'm no longer a delegate.
Thank you so much, Patrick and Kaylee. Now I want to just transition back to Jen for the next set of questions.
Thanks, Karen. We're going to start with Mahjabeen. What have been some of your most significant challenges that you faced as a CUCSA delegate, and how have you addressed them?
Thank you, Jen. Being with CUCSA is a very rewarding experience, but as Amy shared, finding time is a challenge. I found that finding time both for the 3-day quarterly CUCSA meeting and time for work group. So for CUCSA 3-day meeting, I found it helpful to have conversations with my team ahead of time, to do cross-training, to make sure our processes are more mature so that if I'm away from work for 3 days, the business continues on as usual in my team. And I also check Slack in the middle of when I get time to make sure if there is anything urgent, I pay attention, because even though I'm at CUCSA, work is a priority, and keeping the team going is important. For work group, it's a different kind of challenge. It's not a specific time that's taken away, but there's a lot to investigate, a lot to learn, a lot to research, and finding time for that is difficult. 2 things have helped me. One is time boxing. When I'm going after and finding more information, I put a boundary to say, okay, this is how far I will go. Second thing that has been very helpful is having accountability partner. Right now, I'm working on work group report. And again, in the beginning, it's a huge task. I work with my work group, my accountability partner, to break it down into smaller chunks, to complete the small chunks, have discussion, keep it fun, keep it going, and in the baby step way. So a lot of collaboration and understanding have been very helpful in overcoming the time challenge. Thank you.
And you noted that keeping it fun. I think that's really important, that yes, this is work, but you have to enjoy what you're doing and you have to find some inspiration of the objective that keeps you going. So Dre, can you discuss any valuable lessons or insights you've gained from your experience representing UC staff at the system-wide level?
Yeah, I'd say probably one that really stands out the most is how to have conversations with people in leadership positions, chancellor and above. So being part of CUCSA is a way that kind of opens some doors. I can say, I'm a delegate from the Council of UCSF Assemblies, and I'd really like to talk to so-and-so on behalf of policy covered staff. And that kind of opens the door. But I find once the doors open and you're in the meeting room, it really helps to have preparation and collaboration before the meeting. So something really effective that our UCSF staff assembly did when Karen and I were able to advocate to meet directly with our chancellor and associate chancellor on some issues around at UCSF is we did a meeting beforehand where we prepared some key talking points that we wanted to make sure that we were communicating. And we also made sure that we were connecting it with issues that CUCSA was working on. The other thing we did is that we really delegated and made sure that everyone had an opportunity to speak from their perspective, but also tying it back to the talking points. So after that meeting, we received some feedback that the chancellor was so impressed by how prepared we were and how clear like our message and our asks were, and that we came forward not just with issues, but proposed solutions as well. So I would say that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned by being a part of CUCSA is how to have those conversations and how to do so in a way that includes multiple perspectives, but still a unified message.
And that's a great lesson learned of if you want to complain about something, have ideas for how that can get solved. Over to you, Karen.
Great. So I'm going to transition to a couple questions around personal growth and development. So my first question is for Patrick and Amy. How has serving as a CUCSA delegate impacted your personal and professional growth? And either can jump in first.
I'll go ahead and, I think for me, it's just kind of opportunity to, and I think I appreciate what Marjorie was mentioning about time management and being kind of like boundaries and things like that, because I feel like you have to do that. And it's kind of like not just in the professional realm, but also in our personal realms as well. And so I feel like time management has been a big issue that I've always been pretty good at, but you really have to kind of up your game a little bit, especially when you're kind of managing your work environment and kind of like the things you're doing in family. And I'm also in school, so things are kind of like in the personal realm, but then also obviously my opportunity with being a CUCSA delegate as well, kind of implementing that with the working groups, et cetera. So time management has been a really big thing, but also just kind of doing this. It's kind of one of those opportunities. It's like to get in front of individuals, whether it be in Zoom or in person, to kind of do public speaking, to engage in that, to stretch those boundaries instead of kind of being that, and I still get the butterflies, I have them now, the opportunity to really kind of get yourself out there, and especially in public speaking is kind of a great skill to have. And so I really do appreciate that opportunity to kind of build upon what I've got in terms of like the skills that I have and kind of add a little bit more to them as we go. And I really do appreciate the opportunity through this work to do that and share my story. It's not just my story, but like the stories of a lot of staff and kind of what we're doing going forward. So that's what's been a big part of my growth in professional and personal development.
Thanks so much for mentioning the public speaking piece. I think it should be noted that public speaking is a critical component of being a CUCSA delegate. And as much as I love to talk, public speaking does not spark joy in my general day-to-day being. And as far as that relates to my personal and professional growth, it's made me realize, gosh, I really need to look at joining Toastmasters or looking at ways to sort of enhance that aspect of myself that I thought I was somewhat decent at, but put me in front of a mic, and that is completely the opposite case. Aside from public speaking, though, participating in CUCSA really allowed me to get a better understanding of the different ways advocacy can take. As I mentioned, I am not the outspoken person. I realize that I am more of a facilitator. I'm the person that enjoys gathering the data and crunching it together and summarizing it, forging personal relationships. And I think that's something that's really important to understand, is that no matter what type of person you are, there is a place for you in CUCSA to support your staff colleagues and the greater entity as a whole.
Thank you both. The commonalities are so great to hear. I do struggle with public speaking too, and that was one of my reasons for really wanting to be active in CUCSA, but it's also just meeting the diversity of folks and where they're coming from and how we're just coming together to really just support each other and support the staff, that our staff colleagues. So thank you for providing that aspect. And my next question is for Kaylee and Majabeen. What advice would you offer to other UC staff members who are considering becoming involved with their local staff assemblies or pursuing leadership roles within CUCSA?
I can go first. This is incredibly cliche, but similar to most things in life, what you get out of this experience and your success in it is really going to be mostly determined by you. And so I think similarly to what Amy shared at the very beginning, with making sure that you're in a good place to take on this responsibility is important. And with that, I will say that my biggest piece of advice would be to build trust and relationships with those around you who you will be doing this work with. My counselor, I'm preaching relationships and the trust building. But the people that I've gotten to know through staff assembly and CUCSA have, again, been nothing but kind and supportive, and have become people that I can really rely on when I need to take a step back because of a wild deadline at my pay job or a big transition that's happening in my life. Because even coming into this prepared, life happens, that saying about best laid plans and everything. But then I'm able to also do the same for them. And we're able to exchange ideas and speak candidly with one another and provide insight and consultation. And I think those are really the things that have helped me most during my time in CUCSA and staff assembly. And that the relationships we have with each other is what really facilitated that to be able to happen. So in summary, be open to getting to know the folks that you'll be working with in both professional and casual settings.
Tagging on to what Kelly just said, if you're considering joining your staff assembly, please join. You will benefit from that experience tremendously. And as Amy shared, having that bandwidth to contribute and considering that is important. One thing that helps me when I am thinking about volunteering, whether it's in community or within an organization, is having clear goal, both in terms of how I want to contribute to that community and also what experiences I am looking forward to. I have volunteered in many capacities in community, and I found that before, like in the beginning, there's a high level of energy, and then it plateaus, or sometimes it kind of goes down. So having that clear goal helps sustain that energy level. And also it's also helpful to keep checking that to know when to switch focus and contribute into another community. With that, I would like to also make a plug that OPSA staff assembly election is starting next week. I can put the link in chat. Please nominate yourself and join and grow, and you'll get to learn, see UC in a more holistic way. So and you will meet wonderful people, your professional network will grow. So there's just so much to gain. That, back to Jen.
Thank you, Majabeen. I'm just going to mention now that none of us are ever ready to take the step in joining staff assembly. I think we all got here to CUCSA, perhaps a different road, but it all led to the same place. And, you know, you do it for a different reason. I'll just say that you might think that it's a bad time in your life, but the benefit that comes from serving either as a CUCSA delegate or on your local staff assembly really outweighs that, I think. And I'll just say, if you don't have the time, if you truly don't think you have the time, then you probably don't. But if you're questioning if you do, then you probably do. I want to thank all of our panelists today for your participation and your great advice. I want to open it up now to our audience to ask if you have any questions for our panelists. So if you want to raise your hand and then unmute in order, and then our panelists you can just unmute if you want to answer the question. Otherwise, we do have questions from registration that we can ask. Rhonda.
Hi, I'd love to hear what has been the most rewarding thing, maybe rewarding or even surprising thing about serving as a CUCSA delegate.
Any panelists interested in answering that question?
Well, mics are off. I'll just jump in. I feel like we've kind of talked about this and kind of stepped around it, but I think it's this networking opportunity. You get to your local staff assemblies, and then you have this opportunity to meet others at the other locations, and it's a networking that it's like I appreciate what Kaylee was mentioning about the trusting colleagues and people that it's not necessarily you might have questions about might not be connected to CUCSA, but it might be something outside of that. But we're connectors. It seems like we have information, we know people, we're engaging, networking in that way. So it's been pretty amazing to have experienced that as well. And I feel like that's kind of something that we knew going into would be network, but you just never know how the expanded, the far-reaching opportunities, and also in areas that we have expertise and that might not be necessarily connected to CUCSA. You have that information, you can share that with individuals, and that can be really helpful to help them do something. So I feel like that's been a really good thing that's also come out of being a CUCSA delegate.
Ajabin, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, it's hard to pick one thing because there's just so many. But one thing I would say is that the connections and getting to know people in different campuses at more than just professional level, like getting to know them in person. I remember last time when we met at San Diego during a break. I was outside, and Roberta, who is UCSD delegate, and we just started talking like, oh, where's the beach? It's over there. And how far can I walk to it? And then she's like, well, I'll take you to the beach tomorrow. So I'm like, Roberta, you are host. You have lots of responsibility. I don't want to burden you. No, I'll take you to the beach. And we got up at 6:30, texted each other, and drove to the beach, enjoy the beach. And she actually even drove me by Chancellor Costa's house, and like, how so special. So there's just so many special moments you gather with being with CUCSA.
And if I can piggyback on something that Amy said earlier, I've never polled the delegation, but I would guess that the majority of us are actual like functioning introverts, myself included. And I had no idea what staff assembly was, aside from, and I think most of us can agree with this, I thought it was the organization that hosted staff events. So I didn't know that staff assembly, and by extension CUCSA or vice versa, was advocating on behalf of staff. And I didn't understand the term policy covered staff. I didn't know what non-represented or policy covered staff meant, which is why Kaylee is leading a work group to figure that out. And so this is new territory for me, but I'm now, gosh, what year is it? 20. I'm now 4.5 years into this journey of serving on UC San Diego's staff association, is what they call theirs. This is my 3rd year as CUCSA leadership. So I guess that's even more. I'm not doing the math right. But all to say that it's a new topic, something that took a journey to learn more about. And I feel very comfortable talking about what CUCSA does, talking about our objectives. And it brings me a sense of accomplishment, knowing that I can do that. And that has been really a professional development for me of serving on CUCSA. So thank you for your question, Rhonda. Dre has a question posted in the chat. What is your perspective on staff continuing hybrid remote flexibility, and how is CUCSA involved in future of work conversations? Panelists.
I can speak from our sustainable work group investigation of this topic. We have looked into the industry trend and staff voices, and we do find that there is no one size fits all, that keeping employee perspective is important, keeping the having a good understanding of the roles and the demands of the role to determine the level of flexibility that is important. Our work group is also working on best practices for flexible work. And I believe CUCSA is involved in future of work conversation through a system-wide committee level conversation. So I'll let Jen talk about that.
Yes, I can touch upon that. So there was a work group that was organized through system-wide HR. CUCSA did have a delegate serving on that work group, actually someone from Santa Barbara, a now CUCSA alum, Nay. That work wrapped up late last year, and we are now waiting for system-wide HR to post or share the results of that work group's findings with us in a report. And we continue to ask for an update on that. And once we do get it, we will be sharing it obviously with our delegation, staff assemblies, and extension thereof. So stay tuned, because we're all interested to see what's in that report. Any other questions?
This is Dre. We had another person who registered and wanted to know what the time commitment was like.
Oh, and can we put the link in the chat to the delegate role and responsibilities document? So we did create a document last year to help anyone interested in becoming a delegate know really what this commitment is. And again, everyone on the screen today is committed to doing this, albeit, as we've mentioned, it does take time. So we do meet on a quarterly basis for 2.5 days. It's usually the first Wednesday through Friday of the quarter. And as you had seen in the slide deck presentation I had given earlier, that our next meeting is the beginning of June at Berkeley Lab. So yeah, it takes a little bit depending on where you are located in the state to get there and get back home. And as Majabin mentioned, we really want us to be present, all of the delegation to be present in that meeting. And so you do check work because that is your primary focus, but it is a commitment for the days that you're there to be present as a delegate. And then everyone has talked about serving on a work group, and those work groups for the most part are meeting every other week for about an hour, and you're doing work outside of that work group. So not just that 1 hour meeting, but doing the research or the investigation that Majabin referenced. You might be having meetings outside of that with some of the members on your work group or even your work group chair. And then events like this, we ask our delegates to attend anything that CUCSA is hosting or participating in. The CUCSA chair and chair-elect attend the bi-monthly Regents meetings that are primarily hosted at either UCLA or UC San Francisco. And those meetings, when they're in open session, are open to the public and also are being live streamed via YouTube. And we do ask delegates to try to tune into those. You don't have to have your full attention on them, but just kind of have it playing in the background so you're aware of the issues and a lot of success stories that are shared at the Regents meetings. But just it helps the delegation get more familiar with what's going on around the UC system. Obviously, if you haven't attended public comment, which is how each of the days of the Regents meeting start, I highly encourage you to do that because it is by far the most entertaining that you can see of a Regents meeting. And so I don't know what our role and responsibilities doc says, but it's that many hours that I just described. Does anyone want to add on to that, Karen?
Yes, I would add on to that. It sounds like a lot. It is a lot, but it's also how you think about it. I like to think about it as 3 days of professional and personal development. And so, as much as I have work on my plate in my regular job, one of the things we really stress at the CUCSA meeting is you're there, you're in person, and you're focused on that work. And there's such a mixture of fun and that is helping your personal development, as well as the work that is increasing all the things you think about when you want to do professional development. You want to improve your public speaking, you want to improve collaboration and networking, you want to learn more about how the university works. You're meeting with people, leadership, and opportunities you may not have in other structures at your campus. And so it really is a great way to tune in to all those things that you're looking to gain if you were taking a training. But it's really a way to really strengthen your work and your connections with UC. So I kind of look at it as that. And I think in looking at that, the value that it adds, not just to you, but to your campus and to your fellow staff colleagues, it's just a wonderful experience. So I know that when you look at like all the time commitment, you might freak out a little bit, but you're going to gain so much from it that's going to touch on things around your personal and your professional growth. It's truly a great opportunity to take advantage of.
And this is Dre again. We had kind of expanding on what Karen said. Amanda had a question of, have you seen Karen, career growth, progression, advancement as a result of your role within CUCSA?
I can get us started. Since I started attending CUCSA meetings, I'm also watching a Regents meeting. It helps me understand the big issues and the big struggles and the big challenges. And at CUCSA, I can have conversations with my colleagues to understand those tidbits of the information that I gather. So career advancement, not in the sense of like promotion, but career advancement in the sense of I feel I'm in a better position to understand this organization, the various roles in the organization, so I can evaluate like what is my next step and in what capacity I would like to contribute.
Strongly agree with Majbi, and this is Dre. Just understanding the different types of careers that you can move into. What I will say too is that because of my experience on CUCSA, my supervisor is seeing me as a leader or as a potential leader. And so I've actually started to complete a project to get a promotion, and part of that is because of the work that I'm doing. They see that, you know, leadership potential, and they also see that strong advocacy that I have for staff. And so they see the value in supporting me in my professional growth. And just looking at the time, I want to go ahead and just share how you can get in contact with us. And then if each location wants to share how folks can get in contact with you and what the process is for becoming a delegate.
Well, for UC Irvine campus, you're welcome to email Kaylee or myself. We'll drop our contact information into the chat. Our elections are coming up next month, so keep an eye out for your UCI email for call for nominations.
This is Dre again. So for UCSF, we just sent out our call for nominations. You can self-nominate or colleague can nominate you, and our CUCSA delegate is an elected position and would be joining Karen next year.
Yeah, for Office of the President, please feel free to contact me if you have questions, and join steering committee so you can become a CUCSA delegate.
And this is Patrick Allen from UC Berkeley. We're currently in our elections that CUCSA delegates are elected, and that information has gone out, but I can definitely put my information in the chat, and if you want to reach out to me, please do.
And for the locations where an elected member is who is serving on the delegation, I think we've covered most of those. There's the other option, which is a lot of our delegates are auto-assigned, if you will, where the chair and the current sitting chair and chair-elect become the first and second year delegates of CUCSA. And so what that means is you need to join your local staff assembly, make your way to serving as chair-elect to then find the road to CUCSA. So if you are interested, if that's the situation on your campus, join your staff assembly, raise your hand to become chair-elect, and we will see you at a CUCSA meeting soon.